all signs point to the Boston Bruins making once again another move. This time, another player placed on waivers, but what Joe Sacco had to say about the most recent Boston Bruins game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, things are going to be changing in this Boston Bruins locker room. I'm going to be breaking down everything that Joe Sacco had to say, as well as the game, and as well as who this player on waivers right now that the Bruins will certainly look to claim here in this video. Before we get into it, though, we know 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot to get all of your Boston Bruins news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button. Join me here on the channel. We're covering everything Boston Bruins. But without any further ado, we need to get into this game. I want to touch on the game first because this is where we're getting all of our Joe Sacco quotes come from. To kind of keep this in order, this is going to be the best way to do it. And I also want to know right now what your guys' opinion was on this Boston and Toronto game. This was definitely an interesting one. The Bruins seemed to have the offense, but ultimately could not hold the Toronto Maple Leafs to below 6 goals. So without any further ado, let's get into our first little topic here, first little bit of the game. The Boston Bruins certainly had their offenses going in this game. First, David Pastrnak, 2-goal game, or multi-goal game, I should say, of the season. 31 shots for the Bruins, 29 for the Leafs, 23 hits to 20, and pretty good on the penalties for both sides of the puck. You know, the Leafs, Bruins, both were keeping things clean, which is obviously something that we'd like to see, but especially from a Bruins standpoint with how many penalties they've taken and whatnot. But the big concern here is what we've seen in this game: the defensive, the goaltending, everything that's being able to limit the goals against for the Boston Bruins has not been going this game. And Swayman, once again, not the greatest game from him. 23 saves on 27 shots, an .852 save percentage. Really not the best game from him at all here in this one. And ultimately, neither from the defense. The defense was okay. I don't want to say they were horrible, because it could have been much worse, but when you're out scoring 4 goals, and when the Bruins go out and score 4 goals, really any team in the NHL scores 4 goals, you should be winning this game. Ultimately, that's what we saw, the exact opposite of here. The Bruins come out, let in 6, go and score 4. As I mentioned, David Pastrnak, a 2-goal game, getting 1 there from Trent Frederic as well, his first point in 11 games, as well as Morgan Geekie, who has really been on the right side of the puck over the past 30 games or whatever it is, 20 games, however many it is until we saw him really turn it around. But for the most part, once again, we saw the power play not being great, the defense really not having the ability to stop the Maple Leafs. Give credit to them. They're a good team. The firepower is there, and Matthews' first game back was definitely a big factor in this game as well. But Joe Sacco was not very happy with this game and pretty much called out the Boston Bruins locker room. I do have a few quotes here. This is the first one of what he had to say. He goes on to say, "We did not do a good enough job tonight. We were not hard enough in certain areas of the game tonight. Give Toronto credit. They played hard, especially below the tops of the circles. We knew that going into the game, that is just going to be like that, and we just have to be harder to play against down low." And that has really been a factor against the Bruins all season, is down low in the dirty areas of the defensive zone. The Bruins have simply not been strong enough, and having that ability to not be strong enough or not being strong enough and needing to in these games, especially against teams like the Maple Leafs, who are just above us in the standings, even with the absence of Auston Matthews, we need to be hard against these teams, especially, as I mentioned in a few videos past, against these Atlantic Division teams. The playoffs are pretty close right now. The Bruins are still somehow in these playoffs, and we need to play harder. And what Joe Sacco had to say right there pretty much breaks everything down that we need to know for us right now. And of course, the Bruins have seemed to almost turn it around. That's from the beginning of the season, but there are still lots of things to work on, and this defense is being one of them. And we have another quote here from Joe Sacco, kind of going on the same thing of what he had to say there. He said, "It's difficult in this league to play catch-up hockey, but it's 2-2 going into the third. We have 2 mistakes that they capitalized on, 1 that we got beat on, and 1 we just lost our slot coverage." And you can't afford to make mistakes like this. And I think that Joe Sacco has really been emphasizing this point to the team as well as to the media. I'm sure the players are seeing this. I'm sure the players are getting the same but a lot more strict message in the locker room. He did not seem happy after this game. It really did seem like he was frustrated, which is, not something you want your coach to be, but it also is in the sense that you want him to be able to lock this team down. And Joe Sacco has been very good at this season. He's noticing some problems. He can go out there and fix them and really tell the players what he wants to see. And that has worked so far this season for most things. But the defense is one thing now that we really need to hammer in on and really need to get locked up as we kind of progress now after this holiday break and heading into the All-Star game or the Four Nations Cup, I should say, and the trade deadline here in a couple months. But Going back to this as well, Joe Sacco didn't seem happy with this. A lot to the defense, the power play, and whatnot. And there are some more Bruins moves that are looking to be made. And one of these guys right here is a very interesting player that I've mentioned multiple times on this channel, now on waivers from the LA Kings. And that player is Arthur Kaliyev, as I'm sure you've probably seen from the intro video there. Arthur Kaliyev has been placed on waivers according to Chris Johnston, Elliot Friedman, a whole bunch of other people. I just wanted to pick the cleanest tweet, of course, but Arthur Kaliyev is a very interesting player that I've had my eye on for quite some time. And the Boston Bruins have been, active in the waiver market, of course, claiming Oliver Wahlstrom. And that right there, to me, really emphasizes that the Bruins have been keeping a close eye on the waivers. And Arthur Kaliyev is a guy that I think they will 100% claim if they've claimed Oliver Wahlstrom. And it's two kind of the similar players. One who really hasn't had the opportunity to show his offense due to the team in Oliver Wahlstrom not being an offensive team with the New York Islanders, who we are playing tonight, and Arthur Kaliyev, who is just so young, coming off the IR now, yet to play on a very deep LA Kings roster. He's a player that has a very good shot. We've seen that in the World Juniors with the U.S. We've seen that in any international play from him, even in the NHL level, in the AHL level. He's been a very, very consistent player, and as you see, his contract, he's in the final year. The first year and final year is only a one-year deal, $825K, and heading to an RFA after this season, and is going to be 24 years old. And it is going to be very tough to pass up on a guy like this where there really is no risk. Once again, having an expiring contract at the end of this year, being an RFA, it is no trouble to be able to just say, hey, we'll take you this year. If we want to re-sign you, yeah, that's cool. We have a lot of expiring forward contracts. It is one that, the Bruins certainly would like to look at, especially with Kaliyev being so young, being the guy he's supposed to be, 6'2", 210. He is a big forward, in sense of not too tall, but certainly has the weight on him to be able to throw the body around, and that's the kind of style that I really see in Arthur Kaliyev. And I know it's pretty much an extreme comparison here, but that Alex Ovechkin style of being a massive sniper but also being able to lay the body is something that I've always envisioned in Arthur Kaliyev, and one that really does seem like it could play out in the right scenario. And obviously not to the level of Alexander Ovechkin, and I don't want to say never, but very, very, very improbable. But the build that he has and the structure of his game seems a very interesting one for the Boston Bruins, and something that they've been looking at for quite some time. And I did want to pull up this year. 2 points of 5 games in the AHL, as I mentioned. He just came off the IR on December 28th, now on waivers from the Kings, and that was something we've probably been seeing for quite some time. But going over the past years, 15 points last season, 51 games. But when you go to the years before, 28 and 56, 13 goals, 15 assists, and 14 goals and 13 assists in the year before, 27 points in 80 games. But when you go back to look at his time with the Hamilton Bulldogs in the OHL, that's when you really get the taste of what kind of player Arthur Kaliyev is. And although we don't see every time that the OHL or the WHL, USHL, whatever they're playing, NCAA, QMJHL, translate to the NHL level, but when you see some guys like this, we've seen very similar things like this to the Boston Bruins. One name to come to mind who scored 60 goals in the OHL is Justin Brazeau, and now we see where he is now. He didn't come in right away, but certainly has made a big mark on the Boston Bruins, and really, in my mind, once again, another Arthur Kaliyev-esque player that, as a big guy, really a power forward, you can call him, a sniper, you can call him, whatever you want to call him, and it seems to work out in the Boston Bruins system, and that's why I think Arthur Kaliyev is such a big mind to me, and one that the Boston Bruins really need to at least look at, if not claim right away. So let me know, what do you think about Arthur Kaliyev? How he would mix in with this team, as well as kind of how this game really influenced the Boston Bruins looking at the waiver market, trade market, whatever. And as we progress towards the trade deadline, we're going to be seeing a lot of stuff like this, people going on waivers, people's names popping up here and there that we probably didn't expect that the Bruins are certainly going to be in on. But let me know what you think about all this stuff here in this video. That's all I got for this one. But if you did enjoy it, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.